Okay, so hey guys, welcome back to another predictions video, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting the Parker versus Opelu fight. If you are new around here though and you haven't subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do need like video, and let's get straight into it. So, going into this fight, Parker is 31-3 with 21 KOs, and Opelu is 15-3-2 with 11 KOs. This fight is a 10 round fight in the heavyweight division. Parker's last fight was a win via unanimous decision versus Massey, and Opelu's last fight was a draw versus Terzuki. Parker's losses have come against Joyce in 2022, White in 2018, and Joshua in 2018. Opelu's losses have come against Brown in 2021, Huni in 2020, and Zoe in 2018. Parker has notable wins versus Shizora twice, Fa, Massey, Fury being Huey Fury, Ruiz and Takam. So some big names in there definitely. Obviously they were a little while ago now, but if he can go back and reach that level that he once was at, then there's definitely still a possibility that he could get back to these level of fighters again. And I mean, the Ruiz win is huge for him if you now look at his record, and so of course there is big names and they're bigger than what Opelu has by a mile. Parker needs to win this fight to keep his chances of being seen as a top heavyweight in general alive, that kind of chances, because I don't think, like, obviously he's not got the worst of records, and he fought Joyce and he didn't look terrible versus Joyce. Obviously he lost, and obviously it was in devastating fashion, but he didn't look terrible throughout the fight. He had times where he was having elements of success, and I think it's just the fact that he's had that fight and then he's had a fight versus Massey, which he didn't look great, to be honest. He managed to win. It was closer than he would have wanted, and closer than a lot of fans expected. And Sky and Boxer have spent a lot of money on him, to get a contract signed with him, and in a hope that he'd be this big name and be able to kind of carry the Sky heavyweight scene for a while, especially as they lost Joshua, and they haven't really got any other huge names in the heavyweight division currently, bar like Fraser Clark, but he's nowhere near world level quite yet. So that was the hope, and obviously that's not the case, and obviously I don't know at the moment if he's off contract or anything like that, because this fight isn't got anything to do with Boxer or Sky or whatever. So I don't know if he's been let off contract and they've just got rid of him, or if it's just kind of, you go have this fight away, hopefully win, and then you can come back. Probably will be the latter, but he's gonna have a lot of pressure to win this fight and win this in a good fashion, because it's just been a while since we've seen Parker win in a good fashion, and I think that's what the fans want to see, and I think this is what this matchup is for, to be honest. And I think this is still a tough matchup to kind of be asking for, but I think at elements there is the obviously favour of going towards Parker, and I think it just needs to happen for him to win this for his career. Otherwise, he's just going to be seen as a guy who's going to be seen as like a Shizora or a Takam or somebody like that, just not respected that much, and just seen as a stepping stone for other fighters to get to the top instead of actually being at the top themselves. And obviously I'm sure he doesn't want that. Fury is the seemingly main draw linked to this event, which I find a bit strange, but more than Parker in my opinion. Obviously Fury and Parker have got a good friendship and they train together and all of that, and it just seems like Fury is just the bigger draw, and Fury's been linked around, well obviously he's going to the event, and there's been links around him fighting in Australia and just wanting to come and bring some, I don't know, entertainment to Australia just by him being at this event. And just to have that as the kind of main thing that's selling this fight isn't the most entertaining of things, to be honest, and it's showing that the fight itself isn't probably not selling that well, if that is the case. And you know, I suppose that means that everywhere that Parker goes, it's going to have somewhat of a selling element, just because Fury's going to come along with him. It's just not always the best thing to see for Parker's actual development. Opelu, though, in my opinion, has zero pressure going into this fight. Obviously, he suffered defeats himself against the lesser opponents, but so what if he loses? lost, like I said, to lesser opponents and still come back and manage to win fights and stuff like that. And he just seems like he enjoys fighting and has that kind of fighting spirit that you need. And so I would say that he has zero pressure, to be honest, and that's going to make him dangerous at times, especially. So let's speak about the fight. So Parker, he sits down on his shots. He sets up shots quite well. He can start fast at points. He's not always does, but he can do sometimes. He digs his shots well. He's tough. He can counter off the back foot. That's what he likes to do at times, and he's quite good at that. He's got good body work. When he puts it together against Joyce, it wasn't bad and it was solid, and that was probably where he was having a lot more of his success. He's almost certain that he will land clean. That's something about him. He probably will land clean at times, and he's powerful. And he, like I said, he sits down on them shots. So if he is going to be landing clean, then, and of course Opelu's been stopped a couple times, it would be interesting to see how he deals with that. His negatives: he's slow, which can cause him to be predictable. He's definitely not as fast as even what he used to be, but in general, he's definitely not fast. He's past his peak. Questions been asked about that, but it's kind of obvious, to be honest. He leaves his jab out, kind of linked to him being slow. He leaves himself very open to shots himself when he does throw. He drops his guard and all of that. He's not as well conditioned anymore, and he will tire out, and he did versus Massey, in my opinion. He did versus Joyce. He kind of slaps his punches, which is interesting. He seems to always kind of do that, and it's not something which is a good habit. I'm surprised it's still him still being allowed to do that at this level, especially training with the likes of a Fury and that, and to be able to still be slapping the punches, it's not something that you really should be seeing from a top level heavyweight. But he has faced injuries, and it seems like he's never fully recovered from these injuries that he's faced, and they always have seemingly played a factor at times. And so maybe that's to an extent reasons why he fights the way he fights and hasn't fought as well as of recent. But it seems like that is a bit of a factor. Opelu, though, he's a very fast starter. Versus Huni, he sprinted into the centre, threw one wild punch, it missed. But if it landed, then you never know. And that kind of links to him being wild at times. It's not always the worst thing. It means he's a bit unorthodox. Going to be a little bit of a different kind of test of what Parker's probably faced before, even though, of course, Parker is much more experienced. And he's eager to prove that he is a half decent fighter, and like I said, zero pressure. He's got quick hands when he wants to, and can be relatively fast when he wants to. And he throws big as well, of course. He does throw some absolute haymakers. He's got a decent uppercut as well. Nothing crazy there, but it's solid. There's elements that he could possibly find success with. Of course, he will be open to counters. He's very often open to counters, and the more he gets hit with them counters, it slows him down very quickly, and it is really what can affect him. His loss to lesser opponents, of course, he keeps his head quite open at times. He gets caught with the jab quite a lot. He takes punishment unnecessarily, in my opinion, at times. He can struggle to find his own range. He will stand and trade, and I think that's going to make this fight quite entertaining. I'm sure they're both going to be going at it probably toe-to-toe, and he tires after his quick start quite often. And like I said, if he's going to be getting countered a lot, then he is going to tire more and more. And if he's just going to be hitting fresh air by him not being able to find his range, then, you know, he might struggle with that. But I mean, Parker's not a huge heavyweight, so maybe he might be able to find it a bit easier. And he does get controlled in fights quite often. Parker, of course, is the favourite for this fight, and I think that Parker will win via TKO in round 10. I think in general, Parker probably has got the better gas tank, and I think if he can maybe stop the onrush of Opelu early on, and then maybe just, if he goes in with a half decent game plan just to be able to beware of the storm, and then just be able to go on the outside and just take his own shots, counter when necessary, and he is good at doing that, and I think he will be able to get a late stoppage. And then I don't really know, like, it's all down to if he is with Boxer or not, of where he goes on to next. I think if he's not with Boxer, these are the kind of names that I've got. I haven't really got any of if he is, because it's just, I'm not really sure where he goes. Unless he fights Fraser Clark, it could happen. Anyway, if he doesn't, and he isn't with Boxer, Ortiz is a fight which I wouldn't hate. They're both at the later point in their career, Anderson is something a bit different. Obviously, he's coming up at the moment. I think this could be a bit of a good test for him, just to see if he is at world level, because I don't mind that. But of course, that's going to mean that Parker's going to be seen as that kind of person that has to be like a gatekeeper, and I'm sure he doesn't really want that. Or I think an easier fight, which I suppose also shows he's going to be a gatekeeper, which to be fair, there's not many fights where he's not going to be seen as that at the moment. That is Huni. I think Huni could definitely be a fight that could be made. Realistically, it's probably the easiest fight to be made out of these. But of course, Huni's got his own world ranking, and so it definitely could happen. But that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did, like this, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.